John Batiste was one of my classmates, Trombone Shorty, Christian Scott, Courtney Bryant, Joe Dyson. I was just this 12-year-old kid who knew nothing about New Orleans music. And all of a sudden, like, I got thrown into the who's who of New Orleans music.
Hi, guys. We're on the Elation podcast today in the Dolby Room. I'm your host, David Adams. We are with Gregory Agid today. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing? And
I'm doing good.
You nailed my last name.
Oh, I had it in my head. I was getting ready to call you Agid, and that French Agid finally came through.
You nailed it.
It finally came through. Absolutely. How you doing? You good?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good.
I'm doing wonderful. How about you?
I'm great. I'm excited to end the year, and it's been a great year, and I'm excited for the holidays coming up and all that stuff. What about you?
Yeah, likewise. I mean, December is a great time of the year. It's time to make your tax-deductible donations, get your books ready for next year.
Time to take a breath as an artist, right?
Yeah.
It's always the fourth quarter is always a, everybody else is taking a break. Why not me,
Definitely.
But anyway, well, I'm sure we talk about all kinds of music stuff, but let's get into the origin story a little bit. Where are you from and how it all started, and we'll go from there.
Gosh, let's get right into it. So I'm actually not from New Orleans originally. I was raised in Hawaii.
Okay.
Honolulu, Hawaii.
Awesome.
And I moved to New Orleans when I was 12 years old. And I have to say too, I actually didn't move to New Orleans. I moved to Kenner.
Gotcha.
So I got to clarify.
Way different.
It's America's city, and I'm also going to say it's America's jazz city because it's also the home of the Marsalis and John Batiste.
Okay.
So just throwing that out there.
All right. Most people won't recognize Kenner as the music capital of the world, but
we're gonna coin it the capital today.
You're gonna coin it. Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. 12 years old. So your French history isn't from New Orleans then?
Well, yeah. It's like both of my parents are. I'm actually a first-generation American. Both my parents grew up in France, Switzerland, and so they moved here in the 80s. And my dad was in the hotel business, grew up in Hawaii, moved to New Orleans.
Okay.
And it's just kind of navigating life as a first-generation American, trying to figure out what's going on down here in southern Louisiana.
That's awesome. When you say he was in the hotel business, did he own hotels here in New Orleans?
Well, he was working at the Windsor Court Hotel.
Okay.
So it was it was cool to kind of have that introduction to the city via a pretty prestigious hotel. I mean, at that point I think it was the only 5-star hotel.
Yeah, 100%.
In town.
Yeah.
But it was cool growing up around hotels.
That's awesome. Well, he probably knew my grandfather then.
Really?
My grandfather was Daryl Berger's business partner from like early 70s all the way up to like early 2000s.
Cool.
And they owned the Windsor Court together.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So but they probably knew each other.
Wow.
So I don't know if your dad's still alive. My grandfather passed, but they probably knew each other. Yeah. So funny tidbit. New Orleans is like that though. We are a big small town.
Yeah, I'm sure if we went down the rabbit hole.
There's some holes to go down.
We find out we went to high school together. We actually sat next to each other at school.
I don't know what kind of rabbits we shoot, but there's some holes to go down.
Yeah.
So where did music come into play?
Yeah, so music has always been a part of my life. My mom is a huge advocate for the arts, so I was always involved with music from as long as I can remember. I took piano classes. When I was in elementary school, I remember I signed up for the orchestra and I played viola. In 5th grade, I joined the band and started playing clarinet. And I remember at that time, you had to be an orchestra or band. You couldn't do both. And I remember signing up for both and hoping that the band director wouldn't notice that I was in both classes. But yeah, I always played music. And when I moved to New Orleans, I had this incredible opportunity to be exposed to this rich musical culture.
Right.
And prior to that point, I really didn't know anything about jazz or New Orleans music. So it was completely new to me moving to New Orleans. And so I had lived in New Orleans for about a year. And I actually flew back and visited one of my friends in Hawaii that summer. I arrived on a Sunday, and on a Monday, I was supposed to start the Louis Armstrong Jazz Camp. And I remember waking up that Monday morning. my mom woke me up, I should say. My mom woke me up that morning and was like, look, you got to go to camp today. And it was a battle. I did not want to go to that camp that day. But eventually I went, and it was like going to that camp was probably the most transformative experience that I've ever had in my life. I was mentored by Batiste, who is one of the most legendary clarinetists, composers, music educators to ever walk the earth. Kid Jordan, Clyde Kerr, Jermaine Basil, Kent Jordan, just the who's who of New Orleans culture.
Right.
Also, my classmates at the time, like we were all 10, 12 years old or so. I went to, John Batiste was one of my classmates, Trombone Shorty, Christian Scott, Courtney Bryant, Joe Dyson. And so I was just this 12-year-old kid who knew nothing about New Orleans music. And all of a sudden, like I got thrown into, the who's who of New Orleans music.
That's awesome. You had to be connected somewhere that was outside of music there, right? To get into that circle, or was it just random?
I feel like a friend of mine, someone who went to my middle school with me, there were two people in the band at this school, me and my friend Jeff. And Jeff's mom heard on WWOZ one day, like, hey, there's this summer camp, you can audition. And that's how I got thrown into that.
That's awesome.
And it was just completely on a whim. Again, like just being new to the city,
right.
This is like the 2000s. So there's no social media.
Right.
Everything is like, if you didn't read about it in the newspaper, see it on the news or hear it on the radio.
It wasn't real, right?
It wasn't real. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
So it was in retrospect, it was serendipity. It was like some divine plan outside of my control to move to New Orleans and then get kind of thrown into this cultural, just hotbed of cats.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've always felt, and music I feel like has brought more of these experiences to my life than anything else. But I always say that there is someone navigating this above me, because there's no way this just happened.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of moments in music where like, God, I couldn't have placed myself in this position any better, and like, how does it just randomly coming together? And sometimes it's years apart, like I didn't necessarily understand the importance of me moving to LA until I moved back home. And then I realized how much of a gift it was that I was out there for 9 years, and what it taught me. And because then you start talking about people that haven't had that experience, you're like, man, like I really, it was really good for me and the right moment for me to move out there and come home. But if I didn't do it exactly right, things would have gone left.
Totally.
Totally. So, but someone else is up there navigating it.
100%. 100%. And hindsight is a powerful thing, and we don't know how things are manifesting in the moment.
Right.
But we can look back and be grateful for those experiences.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, time is I guess, it's different for everybody, but I feel like it's not how we see time. I have a watch on, I watch time, I have kids, every day is time now. Every day I feel like I count the days because I have kids. But we're not on that same time as a soul, as a person, as a guideline.
Where are we going now?
I don't know.
No, it's funny because honestly, it took me 1 or 2 years to really appreciate how the opportunity that I had to be around all these cats. And I'll never forget being like 13, 14 years old and telling myself, like, I don't know what's going on, but this is really important.
Right.
And I have one of the cool things about music too is like there is a intangible spiritual aspect to music. And
Absolutely.
I feel grateful that like Batiste and a lot of these cats were in touch with that and kind of shared that with us. And, time is flexible in a sense, or nonlinear. Like we are in the present, but as humans, we have the ability to like imagine things in the future,
right,
and remember things from the past. And that's definitely something that's like a very powerful thing to be in touch with, as a human and as an artist and a creative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it is truly amazing. I feel like where your music journey can take you, if you just kind of watch the signs and pay attention,
Yeah.
because you can miss them too.
You can
You,
100%. But
you
that's
can,
like, that's music teaches you to listen.
you're right. Yeah. But you could definitely hit a fork in the road and go straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can definitely not pay attention to the signs. And I've done both, but I feel like the music signs are just louder. I don't
Yeah.
know why. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the way it is in my life. I don't know, but it seems like they're louder.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Um, well, so let's talk about a little bit about what you founded,
Yeah. Wow.
right?
Gosh.
Executive director of Second Line Arts Collective, correct?
Definitely. Yeah.
So
Second Line
let's
Arts
talk a little
Collective.
bit about what that is and what your goals were and why you started it.
Gosh. I mean, there is such a long origin story to this particular organization. And, I am a clarinet player by trade. I also play saxophone. And so, coming out of NOCA and the Armstrong Camp and such, my dream was to be a musician.
Right.
Like, the most important thing to me was playing music. Kind of what you're talking about. Music is a gift that can bring you all over the world. It is also a means of like self-transformation, right? Through the experience of learning music, you develop as a human. And as a young person, like, again, getting to watch cats like John Batiste or Trombone Shorty, my peers, like getting to see like what they got to do and how music was transformative for their life. I was
Right.
like, I want some of that so bad.
Right.
So, I went to Loyola University. I was in the music industries program over there. I did a classical clarinet degree. I taught all this kind of stuff. And then I ended up in the streets playing on Frenchman Street for 10 years, playing with Delphio Marcellus, playing in my own quartet, making my own records. So the origin of Second Line Arts Collective is coming from my own personal experiences as a young person who dreamed of being a musician, as a young person navigating the realities of being a working musician here in New Orleans.
Right.
And then kind of coming to the place in my life where I was like, okay, this was my experience, and I would like to share some of those lessons that I've learned with the next generation of cats to help just improve the opportunity for them to chase their own dream and find success in the industry.
Yeah. Well, and information is one of the most lacking parts of our industry for the independents, in my opinion, because yes, we have a lot of information online,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the information is incorrect
Yeah.
or old or a path that didn't work
Totally.
or a sales pitch, whatever it may be. I mean, how many boosting playlist companies that don't do anything for you, but yet somehow are on your feed over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's one of the harder things to do as an independent is to cipher through all of that stuff, especially if you don't have the budget to screw up on it.
100%. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm fighting the urge to go down so many rabbit holes that you just opened up right now. It's funny because like I'm like a YouTube junkie. Like YouTube University. It's one of the greatest places to learn.
I don't know
things.
why they haven't done it yet as far as like the website. Like why hasn't YouTube tailored everything as far as tutorials and actual learning and create teachers
Yeah.
that are doing their own thing already, but by basically like stamping them like these are true teachers, these are true tutorials, and make it in one whole section.
Well, when it happens, we have to make sure we
get a
both
collection.
Get
Yeah,
we get a cut of
100%.
the royalties. But like doing all these YouTube things, like for me, I'm a social media creator also, and like I'm always learning how to, get more views, use cameras, just go down that rabbit hole. And then one day I was like, oh my God, like the industry is teaching people how to find success in the industry, and that's the industry. It's not really like being a musician. There are so many people telling you and like monetizing how to be a musician, but then when you become a musician, how do you monetize that? Like so it's like holy crap! Like the industry is that consultation and monetizing people's dreams,
Right.
And
it's almost scary though because it sounds a little. I always skated away from the consultants.
Yeah.
Because You know, I did a couple of them in my life in LA and when I was early on because I felt like I needed some help, guidance because I was out there new in the industry. And in the end, all I ended up doing was wasting a bunch of money to get relationships I would have gotten anyway.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's one of the things that I've stayed away from, but it's also one of the most needed things around here.
Totally.
Because
Totally.
there are some very, very, very talented individuals that just don't know how to move.
Totally.
And if they had more info, more help, more tailoring, if that makes sense, I feel like everybody would take off.
Totally. Totally. So many things here. As an educator, I feel like we can only teach people what we've experienced.
Right.
And one of the, I try to, have authenticity and integrity. That's another word that's very important to me. And I like to walk the walk so that when I look at a young person, I can say, hey, you want to create a CD? I made a CD. Let me tell you what I learned from that experience. You want to tour the world with a pop star? Well, I spent the last 7 years touring with Michael Bublé. This is how you get the gig. This is how you handle yourself.
Right.
And so I think the way we create that space is by being that person ourselves.
Right.
And through that experience, we can share that information with a young person directly through like teaching, but also we can be like a living example of what that is. Because something that like was very powerful for me as a young person was watching my mentor, Alvin Batiste. And I had grown up with all these teachers that were like, well, you should be doing this, you should that, why aren't you doing this? And I remember like observing them like, that dude doesn't practice. That guy's not playing with anyone. That dude, it's like, how can you tell me what I should be doing to find success in this industry when you've never done it?
Right.
And something that was powerful with Alvin Batiste is he never told us what we should be doing. He just did it himself.
Right.
And so as a young person, I could just observe him. And through his actions, I knew what it was.
Right.
And so I think,
or knew how to tailor it to myself.
Yeah. And his recipe for success is not going to be the same for me because we're different people.
100%. Yeah. Well, that's one thing that the industry doesn't understand is one path doesn't make it for everybody.
There's a million ways.
And if anything, one path only makes it for that one path.
Yeah.
There's always a snag somewhere in that path that doesn't work for you or that you have to do extra steps on to get to that. There's always a different journey for every person. And honestly, I feel like it's one of the reasons I love music so much is it's very individualized and you control a lot of your own destiny.
Totally.
But I mean, I'm a math and science guy. So that was always kind of that same thought process. Math is so many different answers to get to the same. There's so many different questions or ways to get the same answer.
Yeah.
But you just have to be willing to maneuver.
Yeah. You got to embrace the paradox.
Right.
Like there are things that work, but also there are other ways to do it.
Right.
And as an educator too, it's like, I think, I'm a big proponent of routines and practices and methods, right? Like there are certain things that we should be doing. And regardless of your musical ability, we all have different musical ability.
Right.
I remember like, for as a young person, I was in the room with like future, multiple Grammy award-winning artists, and I just knew I didn't have that same ability that they had.
Right.
And so, but I had different skills.
Right.
I had the ability to just be unbelievably dedicated and see things through. To learn all these different skill sets, to be on time, to be reliable, to be friendly, to support other people.
Right.
And, like those things have led to my success as a musician and an entrepreneur. And I think like those things can be implemented for young people too.
Absolutely.
Today. And it doesn't matter if you're going to be a musician or lawyer, you're going to be whatever it is that you're going to be. Like being punctual, being kind, being reliable, being supportive.
It helps a lot.
Like, yeah.
But it also, I feel like a lot of people don't, and go back to like paying attention to the signs. I also feel like a lot of people don't allow the industry to tailor itself to them. And what I mean is, because when I got to LA, I was a hungry, trying to learn producer who knew that I had a lot to learn, but I truly wanted to be a music producer. And I get to LA and you start to look around, you're like, God, this guy's been playing in drums in the band since he was in the church since he was 8. And now he's, producing music, and his music is amazing. And God, to get to that point, I'm going to have to take years to get to that point to where he's even at right now, which means he'll be years ahead of me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't focus on that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be lost in the shuffle, because there's just so many talented producers around.
Totally.
Where do I fit in this industry right now? So I turned that into doing live sound, and ended up getting the W on Hollywood. Every Sunday they have a jazz night.
Cool.
And it was like their signature night.
Mm.
And so for a year and a half, I did the live sound with my partner, Derek. We did the live sound for Sunday, every Sunday. And I mean, by doing that, I ended up doing sound for Bieber, Aerosmith, Pussycat Dolls,
Wow.
like Skrillex, the whole LA Migos, the whole LA crew that, Chris Brown, like it's like the LA crew. They all circle around and do all of that stuff. John Mayer, and it built a network for me because it did a great job with the live sound. It's the Hollywood. It's an iconic night.
Mm-hmm.
I got to meet a bunch of people. I built the credibility, became a studio owner, and built my first studio on Burbank Boulevard.
Mm.
And that's how all of this turned into something. But it had nothing to do with what I went to LA for. And that's what I try to explain to people sometimes, is that, yeah, I could love music, but if you truly love music, you're going to let music tailor itself to you, and show you the path.
Totally.
Not you force your way into a door that you might not necessarily want to be in.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to maneuver yourself and your creativity.
Totally. And the reality is that this is a tough industry to be in.
Right.
Ellis Marcellus I used to walk him to his car after our lessons, and he would start a conversation with me every week. Every week we had the same conversation. He would start the conversation by saying, "So what else are you good at?"
Right. And
I was like, "I'm really good at music. Can't you tell?"
Right.
But that was powerful to me, because this is Ellis Marcellus, one of the greatest living piano players at that time. And even navigating the industry was challenging for him.
Yeah.
And that's just the reality of it. And, through our work at Second Line Arts Collective, all of these young people are in a music program. And something that we try to do is, we really want to emphasize that they're also entrepreneurs.
Right.
And all of us,
because creativity can be used across the board
for anything.
If you pinpoint something.
Totally.
Aim small, miss small. And then you work your way out from the outside.
Yeah.
But it can be every entrepreneur is creative in their own aspect. So just because you're good at music doesn't mean you can't be good at business. You just have to
be creative.
Find the right business to be creative in.
Totally. And again, what you're saying too, we all start with this love of music, and we all kind of start with a similar dream of I want to be a musician.
Right.
But that manifests in different ways. The sound people, they probably started as musicians.
Right.
Managers, tour managers, A&R people, record execs.
Start with a love of music, and you want to create it somehow.
And the reality is there is a difference between being a great musician and music, the term music business.
Right.
Music and business have nothing to do with each other.
No.
And you can be a great musician and have completely not figured out how to navigate the business.
No, it's 90% business, 10% talent.
Yeah, and the opposite exists too. You can be a great business person and just be a mediocre musician and still be very successful in the industry.
Right.
And that's okay. And all of us are human. We have the right to enjoy creating music, whether we're good at it or not.
Right.
As a teacher now, I've been teaching a lot of old people. It doesn't matter if you want to be a professional musician or not. You have the right as a human to enjoy creating
Feel
music.
Feel good for 3 minutes, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, right?
Exactly. Totally.
You got my little,
yes.
You got my little joke there. All right, good. Good. I'm glad.
Okay. Yeah. In the back of my head, I'm always I teach at public schools. I would like to continue teaching at public schools.
But yeah, well, what did Drake say? We only get paid for 45 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So why am I gonna make a song any longer?
But it's like that's the reality of this industry, man. It's like we all enter it with the love of music, and we don't know where that's going to take us.
Right.
And
It's
that's
the true,
okay.
but it's the ones that truly love music are the ones that end up being successful because they're able to maneuver around the industry saying, all right, well, if I can't do this, I'll do this. If I can't do this, I'll do this.
Mhm.
Wherever I can fit in, I'll do this. Because just because I became a studio owner doesn't mean I don't produce music anymore.
You're
If
still a
anything,
musician.
it gave me the ability to meet big artists and produce music for them because now I have the studio. So
Yeah.
they have a reason to come to me.
Yeah.
I haven't been producing for 30 years, so they didn't have a reason to come to me before. Now they do. And then you fit yourself in as it goes, and it grows, and it goes from there, you know. So
But what
it
you're saying
always
too is
comes
like
back around.
relationships.
Yes,
Like as I'm getting older now, like I'm just every good thing that's ever happened to me has been a result of relationships.
absolutely.
And you never know how, like, maybe you like your dream was to be a musician and now you own a studio, but now like some, hotshot producer comes in and you build a relationship with that person.
Yep.
And one day they need you to do something and you never know who's going to come around and
Or
open
the
a door
opposite.
for you.
I've got guys that were sleeping on my floor at the studio in LA that now have multiple Grammys, producing for the biggest artists. One just signed a $5 million deal with Sony as a producer.
Yeah.
And these guys were homeless, when I was out there 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's the progression is crazy because it always starts slow, but then once it hits, it moves so fast you can't touch it.
Yeah.
And that's those are things that I try to tell young artists, just because you're here, that's not your future.
No.
Your future is so far away from you, you can't see it, even though you're trying to see it. Worry about this day and the next day, and the future will come before you even, it's going to come whether you want it to or not. But if you don't approach each day as something that you can tackle, the future's not going to hit you right anyway.
Yeah.
So worry about what you can control in front of you, and it'll all unfold.
Yeah. But that's also going back to the creativity aspect that we were talking about earlier. It's like, as creatives, like the creativity is not limited to our music or our art. It's how we wake up in the morning. Do I wake up and roll out of bed the left way or the right way, or wash myself this way, or shave starting this way, or cook breakfast that way? How do I drive to work? All of those things are creative actions.
Right.
And part of that,
especially in New Orleans, driving to work could be creative with all the potholes.
You never know if there's going to be a pothole.
I ain't going down that road.
there's that meme of it's like the sober driver, and it's like shows them just like weaving like this, and the drunk driver just going straight through
New Orleans. Yeah, that's about right.
But that's the thing is, like, as an artist too, you have to have the ability to look into the future. Right. And that's what creativity is. Like, that's why they're removing the arts from schools, because they don't want people to exercise their creative muscles.
Well, everybody's supposed to be a sheep at this point, right? We're all supposed to be robots.
100%. But like the act of like creativity is imagining something that might not already exist.
Right.
And that's looking into the future, and that's going out into the cerebral
world. Well, that's why
they're
crushing small business too. I mean, they don't want small business anymore. They want major corporations owning everything.
Yeah.
They don't want the small guy coming up and inventing something that changes the dynamics of the corporate world, which is the only way it changes, by creativity.
Yeah.
So we can go down a lot of deep rabbit holes on that one. I feel like let's try to stick it to music somehow. Well, since we're on a deep conversation, what do you feel about AI in music?
What do I feel about AI music? I mean, like at every point in history, there has been a new technology that's come about and disrupted things, for better or worse. And I'm sure when when Henry Ford created the car, people were like, "What are we gonna do about horses?"
I was gonna say all the horse stables went. Oh!
Yeah, like when the wax recorder came out, like, what are we gonna do about live performance? And it's like we just got to embrace the fact that like technology is coming. And how do we cope with it?
Right.
Going back to the aspect of creativity, I think it's actually horrible to use AI for creative ventures, because who is programming the AI? The same people who want to, keep the world a certain way. Right. So if you're like looking to AI for creative ventures, you're just relying on the computers to tell you what to do.
Right.
You're removing your humanity from that.
Right.
But I think AI can be a very helpful tool. I use it, and I definitely, support anyone to use that to help, help use your workflow. Um, but at the same time, like I just believe that whatever technologies that we use should be like used to help improve the quality of life for us as humans.
So
Like,
I have two sides of it because I use it a lot. I've dived into it really hard over the summer and the last probably like 8 months of my life. And I use it for music production. I use it for some artists that I'm working with. Um, but it's funny how it started because a friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, you have to start diving in AI," and I was against it in a sense just because I don't know, I was kind of pushing back on it as a creative. But then he said, "No, you have to figure out how you're getting replaced."
hmm
And I thought about that. I'm like,
yeah,
"You're right. I got to know what's going on so that I can maneuver myself around
totally,
it."
totally.
So I got into it, and for like the first week, I got to be honest with you, all of my creativity left my body.
Mm,
It was like, ugh, I just like it felt like I left my producer a hat in LA and I'll never see it again. It's what it felt like for the moment. And then after about a week of messing with it, I started to figure out how I could use it creatively,
hmm
and it started to help with workflow. And then I don't have to hire session musicians, which is where I also feel bad because I feel like kind of cut out a little bit of the lack of the little bit of money that session musicians make right now. It's kind of cutting that out.
Of course.
So there's a bad aspect of that, but in the end goal of what I was doing, it helped me,
hmm
you know? So I'm for it, but I do feel like we have to somehow tailor how we use it and not go too far onto the side. Because I do feel like no matter what we do, there's going to be AI artists that we're all going to follow. We're all going to listen to the music. It's going to be on the radio. They're going to have movies about it. Like, I feel like, I mean, if you look at Asia market, they've been doing that for years with anime and
hmm
characters that aren't real and following them. And they have shows and similar lines. So we're going to be there.
But then with all of that, it's like, what is the point of it? And to me, it just comes back to making money. All of this is
Well,
to
yeah, well,
streamline efficiency
Well,
and make money.
why would the label hire an artist when I could hire 10,000 AI artists, never book a hotel room, never worry about the scheduling, never worry about two areas or two shows going on at one time?
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, look, I know. Yeah,
there's a lot of upside for the labels.
100%.
And
Hey,
then
but
and
we have,
owning everything and owning all the licensing.
yeah.
like this, it's just endless possibilities on the label side. But that's where for me I get angry because the labels have always had the upside.
Yeah.
Where's the tool that we get to hold?
Well, that's the internet is the great equalizer, theoretically. And we have to implement those technologies to benefit us as independent artists, as humans. And, I don't think any technology is necessarily intrinsically good or evil, but how we implement them can be used for good or evil.
Right.
And so that's like, again, like, coming from a place like New Orleans that has such a deep, rich cultural history. How do we embrace the change in technology to continue that tradition?
Well, it won't happen here for 20 years. I can say that just because of how slow we fucking are.
It's
Like, we're Bahamas time when it comes to that shit.
No, but it's 100% true. But all that stuff, like, for me again too, like, I live in New Orleans now, and it's like the house across the street from me that once sold for $150,000 now sold for $950,000.
Right.
I can't afford that house. Everyone in this community is being outpriced of their community.
Right.
But we have to embrace these technologies because that's the way we retain our culture.
Right.
And if we don't do it, someone else is going
Someone
to do it
else,
for
yeah,
us, and then we're
100%.
going to be paying them rent.
Right.
And so there has to be some type of like, we got to embrace the technology on some level to retain our power as people.
100%.
I feel like what you're saying too is just like it's capital versus the workers.
It's like it's so polarizing, and it's good on both sides and it's bad on both sides. So
But you got to embrace the paradox.
yeah, right.
It's just what it is.
Listen, you make your money in the gray market, okay? I tell everybody that you make your money in the gray market. When it gets black and white, you're not making money. You know.
But to say also like cutting out the middleman, I think is a powerful thing.
Right.
You know, like myself as a teacher, I released an online course recently, and just, you know, I filmed everything myself. I did the sound myself. I edited everything myself. I made all the documents. I put it online, and the money goes directly to me.
Right.
You know, so like certain things like that, those are empowering for artists. So it's like,
100%.
how do we implement those things without looking for someone to save us? The big labels are never going to come save us. Netflix is not going to save us. You know, Amazon is not going to come save us.
Right.
Their job is to make as much money for them as possible.
Right.
And we need to implement those strategies to benefit us and our communities.
No, I agree. I agree. And I mean, the one thing that'll never go away is live music.
Yeah.
You'll never feel the same standing in front of a TV screen watching an AI program sing a song to you as you would a person sitting there playing a guitar singing to you. It's going to be it's never that part. Human connection will never die unless they want it to. Because we went through COVID. Let's not go, because we've lost a lot of human connection through that shit.
Yeah.
But in the end, I feel like as a arts collective, okay, there are things New Orleans can do as a city and as a corporation to help these artists navigate some of these technologies and keep them in the forefront of the industry.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the city of New Orleans does that?
I think there are certain organizations that try to do that. You know, I try to do that. Again, like going back to the idea that like we can only teach what we know.
Right.
And technology is changing all the time. And you know, something that's important to us at Second Line Arts Collective is just implementing this idea that you can be a great artist. You can pay tribute to the great traditions of this, like the legacy of this culture and city, but still embrace the new technologies of today and tomorrow.
Right.
And we have to adapt. Like,
Well,
it's
I feel
absolutely
like
necessary.
I feel like cities like Nashville, to give you an example, works with their artists to find these issues and navigate themselves through it and help them make their money so that they can pay rent and they can do things and keep the business alive in the city.
Yeah.
I struggle with New Orleans in the aspect of actual overall organization.
I mean, you know what it is. You know, like, look, it's
Well, we haven't had a mayor that hasn't stole from us in 30 years.
I'm not going down today on this podcast like this, but just to say, it's like we just, as general as people, we just cannot wait for other people to save us.
Right.
We have to be the first mover. We have to initiate, like, and those things are like, for me, again, it's Second Line. I used to like tell myself, like, why isn't anyone teaching about social media? Why isn't anyone teaching about taxes?
Right.
Or how to, you know, save for retirement?
Does anybody truly know that you can write off $150,000 now for the federal government for a project?
No, tell me more.
Yeah, no, it's federal tax advantage. You can, as in advertising, recording cost.
Oh yeah.
Travel time. You can put all of that into a nut now for 150 grand, or right up to 100% of up to 150 grand now for your project.
Yeah.
I don't know how many artists actually know that in town.
But that's the thing, is like, for when we look at a problem and say, hey, like, why isn't the city helping us do this? To me, that's our opportunity to say, okay, they're not doing it, but I can do it.
Right.
And all of us have to like begin looking at the world like that, because we all have power. Again, going back to creativity, right? We can be the first movers. We see a problem, we don't like it, we can be the solution to it. And at the end of the day, that pothole might take another 5 years to get fixed. The water's still going to be sitting in the street,
right?
But we don't have control over that. But there are certain things we do have control over, and I think we all have to like initiate that type of solution in this city.
I agree. No, I feel like, I mean, if we all actually truly got together, there would be no stopping us. We've just got to organize, man.
It's been broken for 200 years.
I know, right? I know.
It's not going to be fixed next week.
No. We are the pirate city. We push back against all organization.
And that's part of the beauty of it.
That's part of the beauty of it.
That's why we love this city.
And that might be the only reason we still have the creatives. You don't know. Like, if we get too corporate, we might lose all that.
100%.
So there's a fine line.
Yeah.
But I do feel that, I feel like there's a lot of people talking in the city right now, and there are some people doing action, but what is that action accounting? Like, what is actually happening from that action? Are we actually getting the wants that we need handled from that action, or is it just action to start things?
Yeah.
But I feel like at some point we're going to need the city to say, hey, I love my musicians and we can't let them go.
Definitely.
And eventually it's going to have to get there.
I mean, the reality of this city is like there's not much happening outside of the restaurant scene, the music scene, and drinking.
Yeah,
people
100%.
come here to party, listen to music,
Yep.
and eat food.
Most people don't realize we are New Orleans is the second city as far as percentages of employees that work in the city as musicians. Nashville's number one, obviously. Well, we're number two. It's like 33% of our employee base is musicians now. And we don't take care of them. So
We don't.
But hopefully more people like you and more collectives will pop up, and we can just keep the conversation going, and maybe we'll pressure some people into doing something.
We have to be the first movers in change.
Yeah.
And I think that's just like a really important thing. Again, like for me, I fell into that trap for many years, playing on Frenchman Street. Why are the musicians only making $50 for a 3-hour gig, $100, $75, whatever?
Right. The bar is clearing $100,000.
Yeah, but the reality is like nothing's going to change that. That's what that type of work is.
100%.
And
because there's always a struggling musician willing to play for $50.
there always is, and there's always going to be a bar owner who wants a $50 musician.
Right.
Why would you? But that's the other thing too. As musicians, we have to embrace the reality that why would they pay you $10,000 to play a gig if you're going to bring in $150 to the bar?
Right.
So we have to like also as creatives take accountability for the way the system works
And live in reality, not live in creativity.
Yeah, we have to live it. We have to embrace reality. Look, if as an artist, if you can sell 100 tickets, you can charge what you want.
Right.
If you could sell, however many tickets you could sell. If you can sell out, you can command a price.
Right.
But if you cannot sell out, you are subject to what someone wants to pay you.
Yeah, if you're bringing 10 people to the bar and 4 are family,
you're going to get paid what you get
You're going to
paid.
get paid what you get paid.
And again, it's like they're going to hire someone else if you don't want to get paid for that
100%.
amount. But again, like I think it comes back to, I've been part of all these conversations in New Orleans about how do we bring more of the business infrastructure to create a more robust music industry here. And my part in that process is that we have to educate the next generation of musicians as to what is possible. And you can't, something like LA, New York, you're surrounded by industry. You're surrounded by people making, doing films,
Right.
producing, doing all types of
It's
jobs.
a well-oiled machine. It just moves.
And those things don't exist here.
Right.
All we're exposed to are local gigs and this beautiful, vibrant community, but we have not cracked the code of making money. And so, again, like as an educator, I want to begin instilling those ideas that it is possible. We can utilize the internet. We all have a smartphone. We can all create things for free on apps and reach the entire world. Here in New Orleans, there are, 300,000 people that live in the city. Well, if you have a successful Instagram or YouTube or whatever, there are billions of people with an internet connection that are now your market.
Right.
And we need to implement those technologies to make ourselves more successful in
Right.
life, and it's not for everybody. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's all good. But we have to implement those technologies.
Right. If you don't want to do it, hire somebody to do it. Or find somebody that believes in you enough to do it for you.
But I tell my students too, it's like you could pay a PR person $10,000 to run a couple month campaign, and they might not
And
get
not
you
do
anything.
Oh yeah. Listen, we ran out. I've been a part of was it $175,000 radio campaign for an artist that we had Jacquees on, that we just thought we were just going to roll with it, got an investor and did a 6-month radio promotion, national radio promotion. And then when the promotion was over, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Like it did some numbers and made some waves, but not enough to do anything truly on the touring side, and not enough to create a record label for them because it was one song. All right, what you got next? What's your budget for the next one? Well, we spent all our budget.
Exactly.
Oh, Nah, we're not interested.
And if you have 10,000 loyal followers who will purchase your product,
Right.
that's better than spending 200 grand on something that goes
Yeah.
nowhere.
No, I almost tell well, I do tell a lot of artists to go back to the trunk sale. Just worry about what's in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, you'll make more money selling T-shirts and a QR code for your download
Mm-hmm.
than you are going to be for, you know, trying to get people online to download your stuff. So, and loyal fan bases will spend over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So,
But that goes back to relationships. You have to develop relationships with your fan base, with
Right.
your customers.
right.
They're customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, do you guys have any events coming up that we should know about?
Gosh, you know, it's funny. We just had our fundraiser event a couple nights ago. Basically, this 2026, we've been doing two main programs. We have a Little Stompers program, which is a music class for families here in the New Orleans area, and it's for kids 1 to 5 years old. And we've been partnering with the New Orleans Public Library
Okay.
doing that. So we're actually going to be we're about to announce a 6-week free run of classes in
Okay.
March and April. And then coming up over the summer, we're going to be doing our 10th annual Sanaa Music Workshop, which is the pre-professional training for artists here in New Orleans.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds like both great experiences, honestly. Well, let us know here at Elation if there's anything we can do to participate.
Yes,
Um,
yes. You will definitely be getting a phone call from
Okay,
me,
good,
without
good.
a doubt, or DM.
Good. Yes. Because I feel like, especially catching them young, is important. So that 1 to 5 year old, you know, I have a 5-year-old. So, and the first thing I did was buy them every instrument possible for kids, and then I just let them pick up whatever they wanted. And my oldest loves the piano.
Yeah.
I can't keep them out of my office. So, I just feel like once you grab them, and I guess I got grabbed young, but I deviated from it. But I feel like when you grab them young, they really start to appreciate music more.
Totally. Music is a language, and those receptors in your brain begin closing off as you get older.
Right.
And so it's really important to expose young people to music, different languages. And I mean, again, like at 4 or 5 years old, your mind is wide open
Wide
to
open.
anything.
Yep.
And so those opportunities are especially important, because I think that lays the foundation for what happens later on in life. And if you haven't been exposed to music until 9th grade,
Right.
you can still play, but there's certain things that are just not possible past that point.
100%. It's almost a cultural thing at that point, right? Because you have to grow up kind of in the culture of music to understand it.
Yeah.
And I don't think I understand the music culture till I got to LA.
Yeah.
Like, because it just wasn't enough happening. I was in West Palm when I moved to LA. So there wasn't enough happening in West Palm for me to learn or see what's going on. I was creating my own buzz, which was great because, you know, we had a great little local buzz, but like it wasn't moving from there, you know? So it's like, then you get to LA and you're like, I wasn't doing anything right. I got to start over, you know? Then we're going back to school, you know? But it's getting them young, teaching them young, showing them programs young. By the time they get 15 years old, they're going to be a genius at Logic or a genius at whatever program they pick up. And then it's just going to be better in the future for them.
100%. And you know what? They're going to be good people.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. At this point, it's like, I don't care if anyone becomes a musician or not. As long as you are an empathetic, kind human being who knows how to listen.
Oh God, we didn't
be
create any of those.
respectful.
And the last few generations didn't create any of those people.
Dude, like, to me at this point as an educator, that is the number one priority.
I'm
And
telling
it's like,
you.
But like, again, like, you know, watching these kids like interact with each other and like seeing families of like different backgrounds come and hang, like that's the most important thing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Well, I appreciate you coming through today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you want to say about your collective that we haven't covered, or anything that you want to share that's coming up, or that you'd like, the goals that you want to accomplish in 2026?
Well, gosh, goals. Well, honestly, if anyone is interested in helping support the next generation of musicians, please, you can visit our website. It's secondlinearts.org. We will accept donations. If you have a foundation and want to support a program, like hit us up. We will make it happen. But you know, we love New Orleans music, love New Orleans culture, and we hope to be part of, you know, helping facilitate the dreams of the next generation of young people in this city.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, like I said, reach out and let us know how we can help, because we're
100%.
here. It's what we built this space for, was to give access, real industry access to musicians so that they can actually move properly
That's
in
super cool.
the industry. So we're here. You don't have to leave for Atlanta, Miami, New York, LA. We're here.
But that's like, again, like, sorry, just to say that, like, that is something that's really important to our organization. Is like, we were just noticing a lot of these young people, to get that quality education, they were going to New York, Boston, LA.
Right?
And we wanted to create that comprehensive experience here in New Orleans.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Well, I'm with you, bud. Let's make it happen.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Well,
you.
tell us please about your socials.
Cool. So my personal socials, you can find me at Gregory Agid, GregoryAgid. And if you want to find anything social, if you want to find anything Second Line Arts related, it's just at Second Line Arts.
Awesome. Awesome. Great. Well, thanks again for joining us, and see you next year. Peace.